Oh, oh, that's better.
Shall we begin? Let's begin now.
Volkswagens. Hello everybody, and welcome to this reveal video for the Revell. It's a Revell reveal video. The Volkswagen T1 Samba Bus, which was very kindly supplied by Revell for me to build for you guys. And a very enjoyable experience it was too, given that I'm normally used to building things with wings. For example, the Revell 132nd Focke-Wulf 190 F8, also kindly supplied by Revell. Believe it or not, it was actually my intention to have this finished first. As you can see, it's progressing. It's got the wings on, which is always a nice part of the build of an aircraft, isn't it? When you get the wings on, you feel like you're actually getting somewhere. You spend months, you spend weeks, or days doing the cockpit, and for what seems like an age, you've just got this pile of stuff in front of you, but then when the fuselage goes together and the wings go on, you really do feel like you're making progress. So we're making progress with that. But anyway, this one actually crossed the finishing line first, and the reason for that was that, as you all know, the East Nook Model Club, the club that I'm a member of, we have our bi-monthly competitions, and the December competition, the theme is always a colour. This year is going to be blue, which is really annoying because I just did that PRU Spitfire, which anyway. But last December it was red, so I kind of thought, well, you know, here we are, we have something that can be done in red. I also have the big London bus, also supplied by Revell, which is still sitting here because I have literally nowhere else to put it because the box is just so big. So it sits here. You know, it's on the list. But actually, one of the reasons why I did the Samba bus before the London bus was because I'm not used to doing commercial vehicles, or civilian vehicles I should say, well, I suppose bus is a commercial vehicle, but civilian vehicles. I wanted to try my hand on something a little simpler than the big double-decker, and as I say, the competition theme was red, so killed many birds with just one stone. I actually won the competition as well, which isn't bad because when we did have the competition back in the early December, it still wasn't fully finished. There were still a few wee accoutrements to add to it. But anyway, yeah, it was a very enjoyable experience. Total break from the norm for me, and that's what I'm trying to do a lot more these days, by doing things I just wouldn't normally have considered before. And this certainly qualifies as one of those things. I've seen quite a few of these online. You know, obviously when you buy a kit you always go online to have a look. This chair's very squeaky all of a sudden. To see how other folk have interpreted the kit. And there was lots of amazing sort of showroom, you know, condition vehicles, pristine and just gorgeous. I mean, that takes skill to do. There's a reason why I weather, because it kind of covers a multitude of sins. And then the antithesis of the showroom models is the derelicts, the rusted hulks, and sort of post-apocalyptic ones as well. What I wanted to try and portray was a Samba bus that, if you could imagine, has been in the same family for like, when do these things come out? In the 60s? So it's been like the same family that's had this thing. You know, the mum and dad got it, you know, like at Woodstock or whatever. Or they took it to Woodstock, and then they had their kids, and then they've had grandkids, and they've all, every weekend, they've packed this thing up and they've gone to the beach, or in the summer, or to the lakes, or to the mountains skiing, or whatever. And they've taken it all around the country, you know, for their big holidays. They've gone huge road trips in it. So this thing's like that. The odometer's actually gone round the clock, and it's been a part of the family. I treat cars like that. My Subaru is, it's part of the family. I really like it, and I hate giving up cars like that. I mean, eventually the time will come in any vehicle's life when you just have to... Well, actually, no, that's not true, because I also have Land Rovers, and Land Rovers can go on indefinitely because there's not a part on them that can be replaced. I don't know if it's the same with these things. I suppose in the collectors and the connoisseur sort of market where you can always buy sort of spare parts, and people are always taking them and stripping them down. So there's always an availability of these sort of things. But I just like the idea of a car or a vehicle that's been well loved by the same family. They'll have given it a name, Gertrude or Hilda or whatever. And it's now showing signs of 30 years worth of loving, as it were. But they've maintained it, they've kept it going, they haven't had it renovated or anything, they've just kept this thing going and going and going and going. And I quite like that idea. I built the US version. There was two versions in the box. There was a US version and a Euro version, and there's three reasons why I went for the US version. My wife's American, so there's one. The US version has cooler bumpers, or I should say fenders. And also, my wife, when she came across to live with me here in Scotland, she brought with her her, well, we call them registration plates, but I should say license plate. And I thought it might be quite a nice idea to discard the ones that were included on the decal sheet, which were Florida based. And I took a photo of my wife's license plate, put that onto, printed it out, or reduced it down in size and then printed it and cut it out. So I now actually have my wife's license plate on the... I've put it up front and back. I know in the States you only really need it on the back, but I put it on the front because there was a facility for a license plate on the front. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed myself building this because it took me into areas... I mean, weathering for me is usually exhaust stains and the soot from a cannon or chipping on the walkways and just faded paint from being out in the exposed to the elements. But for this I wanted to try, I've had rusty cars before, and I've known people who have rusty cars. You don't generally see rust so much on cars anymore, but when I was growing up it was a big part of a car, and in some cases a big part of a car, because there was a lot of rust. I used to remember our neighbours constantly, the smell of car filler was just permeated through the air because they were constantly filling and sanding and repairing their car. Excuse me. Oh, there's exhausts. Emissions. So, as I say, this took me into a kind of a different world, as it were. For example, the wheels. I haven't done the tyres as white walls because, again, trying to portray a vehicle that's gone through years and years of a hard life, but it's been used. It's like as I say, my Subaru out there on the driveway. It gets used as a car. I don't pamper it. The rear of the car, obviously the Subaru's it's an estate car, but it's a station wagon. The back of the car is the domain of the dog, and when you open that, it's like, man, it's beyond any valid service to get clean now. So the car gets used and things get thrown in the back, and I prefer, it's like a respect for the machinery. You're using it for what it was designed for, and again that's what I've gone for here. So trying to portray paintwork that's there's rust spots on it, it's faded. You know that when you buy a brand new car, and it's gleaming, and then you give it a wash, so you've wiped it with a cloth or a diaper or whatever it is, you've cotton wool or whatever, but after a period of time it gets those microscopic scratches, so that when the sun shines on it you see this spider's web of hundreds of scratches just creating this weird sort of shimmering effect on the paintwork, and after a time that will reduce the gloss effect of the paint, and I've tried to go for that here. When I initially sprayed it, it was you could literally read it was that shiny, because this is what I do now with weathering. I no longer do pre-weathering. I paint the thing factory fresh and then weather down from there, and that's what I did here. So the red paintwork, as I say, was a high gloss finish, and then what I do now is I take old brushes and just give them a crew cut, so you're left with this little stubbly bit, and then and that provides all those little scratches. I use I suppose it's a buzzword, the reflective index of the paint. If you were to take, when I initially sprayed this thing red, if you were to take a square inch of that, okay, square inch of shiny red paint, and then take a square inch of shiny red paint from the real thing and put them side by side, they would look identical. Put that square inch back in on your vehicle, and you know, maybe on an area that nobody could see, and walk back so that it was 24 times further away, and hold your little square of red paint so that you can see both of them in your line of vision. The colour and the reflective index of a larger area will look completely different. In fact, if you were to compare that 1 square inch to 24 square inches, because it's, sorry, it's 1/24 scale, yeah, 24 square inches, it will look different because of the way light reflects over a larger surface area. So that's what I try to go for, it's this toning down of the glossy finish, so that it reflects light and as a result will appear lighter or darker depending on whatever. So that's, as I say, that's what I tried to achieve with the red. The rusting on the wheels was very, very simple. I was quite chuffed with how I managed to achieve that. It was just simply dabbing red-brown paint on it. Having enough acrylic paint on the brush so that it left a little lump of paint, which created, again, if the light reflects off it, or if you look at it from a certain angle, you'll see this sort of what appears to be bubbling paint, bubbling rusty paint. So that's how I achieved that effect. And as for the rust on the bodywork, prior to painting, I actually just took polystyrene cement, blobbed it on, let it sit for maybe a minute or so, and then took a scalpel and just into that sort of soft plastic, so it just, you know, made a mess of it basically. When it was painted, that area then, I actually then took fresh gloss paint, the same red paint, and again just dappled that on. So again that created the effect of bubbling paint, and then just with, again, the red brown just underneath, made it look exactly, to my eye, made it look exactly like rust. And again, I just basically repeated that over most of the actual, as we say, airframe of the bodywork, the panel work, especially the bumpers. Being metal, steel bumpers, obviously, as soon as you got a chip, and it was down to the bare steel rust. And again, because this is a vehicle that's, you know, it's seen the world, as it were. It's well travelled. Prior to painting the bumper, the fenders, I took chunks out of them and twisted and bent and deformed them so they look like, you know, the occasional scrape and bump here and there. And there was little sort of plastic bumper strips, so I've taken a few of them off as if they'd literally just fallen off. You'll always see old cars with these little sort of the door strips missing and whatnot. The interior was, I kind of went for a slightly darker grey than was supposed to be used, just to give it the effect that over eons it kind of been impregnated by so much dirt it literally changed the colour of the paint. I managed to get a really nice vinyl effect when I painted the seats grey and I put a wash on them, and when I started to wipe the wash off, it almost polished the grey paint to the extent that it gave it that slightly satin finish that you see on vinyl seats. I then sort of like stuck little bits of like masking tape painted silver and black to look like somebody, you know, where the seat had dripped, and you put a little bit of masking duct tape or something to cover the rip or whatever. And just above the ashtray, I'm actually quite chuffed with this, little cigarette burns just above the ashtray, where back in the day, because obviously the family doesn't smoke now, because nobody smokes now, really, no, apart from Volkswagens. Where, you know, back in the day, as I say, they put their little cigarette on the top and it's burned through and it's like discoloured the paint. What else? Oh yes, my favouriteest thing, my most favourite thing about the whole... Oh, I'll tell you what I did do. The steering wheel, you know. Again, you don't see this anymore because steering wheels are lovely and padded and they're all shaped and contoured and everything. But, as I say, back in the day, like my old Land Rover with its massive steering wheel that's like that thin, people used to put that horrible leather tape around their wheels. So, again, I just got some the very thin masking tape, painted it black, coloured it black with a pen, and wrapped that around, so it gave the steering wheel the look of a taped up wheel. Yeah, my most favourite little addition was some scratch building, which is a pair of pink fluffy dice, which I think really just does set the whole thing off. But as far as the kit's concerned, it was a great kit, went together very well. I did have a few fit issues, probably down to me. In fact, I kind of built it slightly out of sequence, so it's my fault more than anything, in that I can't get these doors to stay closed. Well, I can get that door to stay closed, but I can't get this door to stay closed no matter what I do. But this is the side that I show open anyway, so yeah. But yeah, I'm going to do more of these things because I thoroughly enjoyed it, and once my skill set improves, I'll try and go for the showroom condition one. What that really comes down to is as much your building skills as your painting skills, because as I say, you wouldn't buy one of these things with the doors sitting ajar anyway. But yeah, very happy with this. I had great fun doing it. You often have an image in your mind's eye when you start a kit of what you want it to look like, and invariably, well in my case anyway, that rarely ever, what you end up on your bench rarely ever matches what's in your head. But for once, this one actually possibly surpassed it. I mean, like for example, the roof. Quite often when things go wrong, that leads you down a path that actually gets you what you were looking for, or even better than what you were looking for in the first instance. I was getting things called fish eyes when I sprayed the roof white, which is usually caused by either grease or something on the paintwork, so the acrylic paint doesn't adhere to it. Now, I'd actually used a very high quality primer on the roof, probably one of the better primers, and I was still getting this, and it was fresh primer, it hadn't been touched or anything, and so it was obviously some contaminant perhaps in the paint, maybe from when I'd cleaned the brush previously, maybe there's still some cleaner in there, I don't know what it was. But when I started to sand it down to get rid of the little fish eyes, I actually found that I was creating that subtle rust that you get on the roof. I mean, I had this on my Land Rover, because Land Rovers have white roofs as well, and it created exactly what I was looking for, but I was getting to it from a completely different route. And also, borrowing from real life, I mean, I've got little hints of green running around the gutter because of my Land Rover, because it sat out in the sun on a white roof, and if it's been raining or it was damp, sunlight on water creates algae, so you get these little green deposits along the gutter. And then, as I say, I'd quite often nip out and have a look at my car and think, oh yeah, I could see streaking there, just that's where I get streaking, and I don't get streaking. And I would be paying attention to other vehicles as well as doing online research, but because that's the best place to draw from. I mean, you may have an idea in your head of what something should look like, but when you actually see it in reality, this is something that's happening a lot in the airplane building community with weathering and shading and pre-shading and whatnot. We now have this vast resource to pull from, that being obviously Google, and you can find, well, I found these things in every state of, every condition imaginable, as I say, from showroom, be it models or the real thing, to utter derelicts. But so yeah, there we go. The first of the three for Revell, from Revell, the Volkswagen T1 Samba Bus, and a model that I'm actually quite chuffed with. I will display this one with pride come the shows. It's sitting on just a little base that I quickly rattled up for the December competition, but I'm actually planning on doing a little New England sand dune type thing with the grasses and those little wooden fences that have kind of fallen over. So, and if anybody knows where I can get a 1/24th scale beach umbrella, or beach ball, or beach accessories like beer crates and barbecues, let me know, will you? Anyway, there we go. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you all again soon, and you can probably guess what I'm about to reach for that's just out of sight. Cheers.